Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So tearing out a super fun and exciting episode for you guys today, because just a few days ago I talked about the 4K and 1080p texture packs for GoldenEye 007 on N64, and a lot of people in the comments said they really like the leaked, unfinished Xbox Live version of the game, and they'd love to see that either get a PC port or a static recomp. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is actually a static recomp in development of the Xbox 360 Xbox Live version of the game, and the fact that this never actually came out is absolutely a disappointment. So I got some big decomp energy going on today. We're going to talk about everything. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But I can't believe that they actually started development on this remake before they actually had all the licenses in place. Because if you listen to the news online, they will tell you that the reason this game never came out is because they couldn't make a deal with the rights holders of James Bond's franchise, as well as the likenesses of the characters. So the fact that it got this far along down the road without actually having any of those rights in place made one of the weirder things I've ever heard about a cancelled game. Now, honestly, GoldenEye 007 is just one of those iconic games. If you played it back in the day on N64, you definitely have nostalgia for it. But today, I understand a few people out there who've never played it before have a little bit of an issue going in back to the N64 version of the game. And that's basically what this was from Rare, making a quote-unquote remaster with modern graphics while still keeping a lot of the same level geometry and overall old-school retro vibes. Unfortunately, this does have a little bit of an aim weirdness here because the aiming wasn't ever finished up. This is something that on a recomp, if you had keyboard and mouse support, it would absolutely just be an easier way to play the game. Because it's one of those things, auto aim was definitely enabled on N64, and you had a lot of the ability to actually just kind of run around and hit the shoot button without thinking too much about what you're aiming at. But here, that's going to be completely different. But in a recomp, that could 100% be patched up and made to work. So you can still hear in Bean Recomp, it is a static recompilation project for the Xbox 360 version of 007. And just remember that a static recomp is different than a PC port. They do accomplish the exact same thing in the end, which is to make the game playable on a modern platform, but they do it in different ways. And this is using the Xenon Recomp tool, which we've seen on the channel in previous videos, but I'll explain more in just a little bit. But honestly, I would love to see this thing brought over to PC because the 360 version of the game is a fun time to play around with and definitely is a more modern looking GoldenEye, but there are still some issues in it because it is an incomplete build, so it's one of those things. The entire game is here, but for the most part some of the controls and aiming can be a little bit wonky, and this is something the community could definitely button up if we had a recomp that allowed for mods and patching. And considering basically every recomp ends up with that, you would end up in a situation where you would have an amazing version of 007 that you could play on your PC today. And that's definitely a world I want to live in. It's one of those things, this would just be so much fun. And that's why these projects make such a big difference in gaming. You'll see here, as far as the current status is concerned, it is in development, but like pretty much every recomp or PC port, we're just going to have to wait and get more progress updates. Maybe this is something that's going to be out in a week, maybe it's going to be out in a month, maybe it's going to be out in a year. A lot of these projects kind of happen in the background. You get updates and little bits of trickle news here and there, but for the most part, suddenly one day you just hear an announcement that the recomp has been released. But as far as actually remastering 007, that was a very smart idea because people had a lot of nostalgia for this game, and on the 360, with all of the online support with Xbox Live, this would have been absolutely incredible. And I think it might be one of the biggest misses in video game history, not getting those licenses in place where they actually dealt with making the game. And there is going to be more 360 recomps and PC ports in the future as well, because Xenon Recomp tool, they're kind of like the same tool for N64, is going to aid developers in actually making these projects possible. And a lot of times that's kind of how these things happen. Somebody creates a tool set or application that aids in the development of something, and then other developers take that tool and work with that. A lot of times you need to have that infrastructure in place first before you really want to sit down and try to work on one of these projects. And when we saw it in Sonic Unleashed, that does work, and you can play Xbox 360 games on PC. And don't forget, because the PowerPC chipset in the 360 is completely different than a modern x86 instruction set, it does take a lot of work to actually get that working, but it can be done, and I can't wait to see more of this in the future. Let's do a soundtrack sample just so you can hear what the music and sound sounds like in this cancelled version. I'll be right back with a lot more technical detail on the port, but enjoy. So yeah, really no difference there whatsoever. The big difference is in the gameplay, it's in the visuals, and it's in the frame rate, which obviously are all improved across the N64 version of the game. That is definitely something GoldenEye needs, especially to a modern audience that maybe didn't play the game back in the day. So you'll see here what they're working on, converting the endianness of the code, converting the PowerPC instruction set to x86 equivalents, and dealing with all of the different memory addresses and registers. And again, this uses the Xenon Recomp tool, which is something that anyone can download and use for their own recompilation purposes. Now, it's not like it's a drag and drop or one-click sort of function. You do still have to do a lot of work, but that's how you end up playing Sonic Unleashed on your PC, and it absolutely is just such a fun time. This is the type of thing in the next 5-10 years you're going to see multiple of these projects come to fruition, and that's because dedicated fans and members of the Xbox 360 community will go out and make these tools so that everyone can actually enjoy these games. And again, that's why I really think that recomps and PC ports are going to be the future of gaming, just like software emulation was back in the day. Now, don't get me wrong, software emulation will still work side by side with stuff like recomps and PC ports, but I feel like in maybe 10 years from me recording this video, you're going to have at least a couple hundred recomps and PC ports of absolutely beloved console games from back in the day, and at some point in time, I feel like everything will end up being decompiled or recomped and ported so that basically you can play entire libraries on your PC. But it's one of those things. I'm definitely thinking about the future here. I could be as wrong as I could be right. We'll just have to wait and see. But just imagine playing something like 007, the Xbox 360 version, on your PC with online support, widescreen, everything else you could possibly want. Now this dude here is just phasing directly through that bathroom door, and you can actually shoot him in the head to be able to kill him. But this game definitely could use a little bit of under-the-engine code improvements, especially to the aiming department. So any sort of recomp would definitely still struggle unless modders went in there and kind of buttoned this game up, because it's really interesting. As far as all of the different PC ports and recomps we have, I can't think of a single instance in which somebody or a team of somebodies have tried to do it for a game that actually didn't see the finish line as far as development was concerned. But that in some ways makes this game even more important to get recomp, because it allows the community to go in and kind of finish the work that the developers at Rare and Microsoft actually couldn't finish. That's something I think we would all love to see. But if you want more technically dense information on how this works, I left a link in the description below to the GitHub, and if you want a video in the future talking about all the complexities and technicalities of how these things work, leave me that comment. I just generally find that when I get too technical in videos, that is exactly when people turn the videos off based upon the analytic stats. That's one of those things. Sometimes I would like to go way more technical, but I find that most people just really aren't that interested in it. They want that hype man telling them that something cool and new is coming down the pipeline. And that's exactly what we're getting with this recomp of 007. You're getting something cool and new in the pipeline, but again, I have absolutely no idea when that's actually going to be finished. But it's always fun to talk about previews, and in this instance, this is a game that absolutely needs it. Let's do one more soundtrack sample just because I love the music in 007 and the gunshot sound effects, and I'll be right back. Definitely sounds like a little bit better audio quality there than on the N64 version of the game, but you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think. But honestly, this is definitely a game that could absolutely benefit from the recomp process. Imagine better aiming, imagine better online support, the ability to play multiplayer match after multiplayer match, just sitting in a lobby waiting for people to join without having to deal with trying to run this thing on an Xbox 360, which is how it's being run here today. Big thanks to Andy D for helping with the captures. When you listen to this, I'm probably up at the new house again, getting the new studio ready. I built a metric crap ton of furniture yesterday. I've got my desk and everything else going on, but I still have a metric load of work to do before I am ready to actually move up there and continue my normal work as well as YouTube. But trust me, I am definitely dealing with it. But this, again, is just something that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about, because we don't even have a recomp or PC port for GoldenEye, the N64 version, on PC yet, but it seems like in the future we're going to have both the N64 version as well as this one recomped. But oh god, look at the time, guys. I have to go, and I'll see you next time. Dad joke. Bye-bye.